Okay, I just walked around to hear what you guys had to say. Let me share with you what I heard. So, for question one, is this style of filmmaking ethical? The answer I heard from group one is yes, but only because at the end the filmmakers came out and told people the truth, which is that they're now part of a movie. Um, if the filmmakers just captured the images and then left, and the people thought it really happened, then that would not be ethical. Maybe it would leave some trauma, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I saw this happen. But there's also a related question. Some of the spectators had their faces blurred out. And that tells us even after the filmmakers came and explained everything, they still did not want to be part of this movie. But group one thought that this was still ethical because when they refused, the filmmakers just did not show their faces. And the spectators, they contribute most to this movie from their reactions. We enjoy their facial expressions, we enjoy how they react to the situation. So by blurring out their face, we don't see their reactions. They're not really contributing to the movie, which matches their choice not to be in the movie. Right? So they're not giving their labor. We're not enjoying the fruit of their labor. It's ethical. Yeah. So that's what I heard from group one. Other groups want to share different thoughts? Okay, moving on. Question two. The fact that the camera angles feel like they're hidden or feel like, security cameras. At some points, it felt like cell phone footage. Group two said that these strange camera angles made the experience more immediate. It put us in that situation as well, and it added to the feeling that this really happened. Of course, we know that it really happened, but that it was by design. But if we didn't know that it's by design, then the weird camera angles make it feel more real. We can compare, right? If the film used more regular camera angles, then it would feel more like a movie. It would feel faker, basically. Another option is you can also use a really long lens to shoot from far away. And that way, the spectators also would not see the camera. But if you do it that way, it puts more distance between us and the events. It doesn't feel like we're part of it. It feels like we're looking at it from far away. And also, if you use the long lens, everything feels more flat. I don't know if you know this. If you shoot from far away, the distance between things, it feels flat. It feels like it's all imprinted on 2D. So it would also be harder to enjoy what's going on if you could not understand the space and how people are using the space, especially because many of the jokes are physical. And so it is about how actors walk around or run into things. You need to be able to feel the space. Question three. Are we in the same position as the spectators? So building on question two, on the one hand, we are. We don't know what's going to happen. When things happen, they also feel crazy. And the spectators also don't see a movie camera until the end. So it's like we're all in this together. On the other hand, we as the viewer get to see something that the spectators don't see, which is the reactions of the spectator. Right? If you're in that situation, you're probably too shocked to notice what's going on around you. But when we're sitting comfortably in this classroom watching this movie, the film shows us how different people react. And that's something that's different from the spectators in the movie. And then, of course, is the fact that we're watching it through a screen. if you're in that situation, things are happening in real time. And if there's like blood or puke, you might be afraid it might get on your person. But we're watching across a screen. We know that this is by design. We see the editing and the cuts. So even though it feels more real than a regular film, we still know that it's by design. And that's something that the spectators don't have. Question 4, what kinds of humor? So group 4 noticed that the humor is mostly physical. Uh, the character Chris running around, running into things, running into people, getting hurt. Very physical comedy. And group 4 says that they use physical comedy because it's more obvious. If one key part of the film is to capture spectators' reactions, then you need to get people to react. And the best way to do that is to do something big and crazy. So that's why the film uses mostly physical comedy. It also uses gross comedy, disgusting jokes, for a similar reason, right? Yeah, to attract attention and then to really get a big reaction out of people. Like when Chris is throwing up in the bar and it's exploding everywhere, you really get a strong reaction from the spectators. Um, Now, there are some scenes where the jokes are a bit more about a bit more thinking kind of joke, more cerebral. So, like when Trish is going around threatening people or acting crazy, right? Uh, the reaction that she gets from people is people thinking about the situation. She's going around saying, "My brother stole my car. I'm going to kill him." And then so people start thinking, first of all, she's crazy. But secondly, if I help her, does that make me guilty also? And those kinds of reactions, um, it takes a bit more thinking, but the film is able to capture people's thinking in that sense. Like, for example, at the beginning, right, when Trisha is escaping from the bus, and there's that cleaning worker cleaning the wall, his reaction is very much like, uh, should I help her? If I help her, should I tell the police officer where she went? So watching him navigate that situation, trying to figure out what is the best thing to do, that's kind of funny. So that's another kind of joke that the film uses, but not as much. As you see, people reacting to Trisha is more on an individual level. One person, two people reacting to her. It's hard to get a whole crowd to get a reaction to her actions. Question 5, racial stereotypes. Group 5 mentioned that um, the racial stereotypes in Taiwan are quite different from those in the US. So this question was a bit hard to talk about. But if we think about the racial stereotypes that we have in Taiwan, and we replace black people with other kinds of people, then we start to be able to understand what's going on. The basic idea is that um, the stereotype of black people is that they are less rational, more crazy, more intense. They're less willing to follow the rules, less willing to be polite. So in that sense, the film does show racial stereotypes, right? The three main characters are all black. So like all of the stuff that they do or all of the stuff that happens to them seems more easily believable because they are black. Like if we change them to white people, it might take a little more work to change how they look or how they behave or how they talk in order to make it more believable. The group 5 added that the film uses these stereotypes. It's not just showing the stereotypes, it's using them because, again, the film needs a reaction from the spectators. And it's easier to get a reaction when the spectators believe that it's real, and they are more likely to believe that it's real if the situation follows racial stereotypes. They see a black person do crazy stuff, they are less likely to ask questions. If they see a white person do crazy stuff, it might be more confusing. So, because of the racial stereotypes, the spectators give a more natural reaction. So, in that sense, the film doesn't just show racial stereotypes, it also uses them to get what the filmmakers want. This is related to question 6. In the same way, the film uses romance to tell as like an excuse to make all of these jokes. The main story is Chris wants to pursue Maria, but I think we all agree we never really believe that story, right? We know that's just an excuse for them to go on a road trip to New York City. And if we think about the traditional romance story, guy falls in love with girl, guy pursues girl, he confesses his love, and the girl accepts him. That does not happen here. So like many of the elements related to romance are very superficial, right? Why does Chris love Maria? Basically because she's pretty. Um, and he said that he's always been in love with her. So we don't really get a reason. And then they go all the way to New York, and then he confesses his love to her in a very beautiful speech, helped by the music. And then Maria does the sensible thing, which is, I don't know you. Can we start from being friends first? So that also subverts our expectations for this romance. And then finally, after everything happens and he goes back to Maria, she gets really, really mad at him for good reason. And so that, if you're expecting them to really get together at the end, didn't happen. We can also think about like if we watch a romantic comedy, we have to believe that these two people are meant to be together. There's something that each person brings to the relationship. But in this case, Maria is pretty and Chris is, well, I'm not sure what Chris brings to the relationship. He doesn't seem to have any positive qualities. So even from that point of view, it does seem like they're not meant to be together. It's just the structure of a romance, but you don't really have the elements of a romance. The elements that we do have are of a bromance between Chris and Bud, right? By the end of the film, Chris says, "It's okay, I found my soulmate, Bud." And in a sense, it's pretty expected. When you watch a road trip movie, most of the time a road trip movie is about how two people are forced to get into the same car and spend hours every day, and by the end of the road trip, they have become friends for life. Something like that. So the fact that it's a road trip movie already shows us that maybe it will be about this bromance between the two guys. And indeed, from that perspective, the more crazy stuff they do, the closer they become. If you remember when they accidentally take drugs and they go crazy in the supermarket, they're doing it together. And at the aftermath of that, they're kind of forced together, right? So like doing crazy stuff together really does bring them closer together. It adds to their friendship. So that's the real romance of this movie. And then question 7, group 7 said they would not have realized it was fake because the events are so shocking that they would not be able to react. They would not be able to think what's going on. They would just be totally stunned. So it would not even occur to them in group 7 that this could be fake or that they could be making a movie. However, um, some people might know that this film falls in a genre known as the prank movie or the prank show, where just like in the movie, the main characters do crazy stuff to get spectator reactions. If you are familiar with this genre and you realize this stuff really is kind of too crazy, you might start to think, wait, is there a camera nearby? Am I getting pranked? But then again, as Group 7 mentioned, crazy stuff happens in life. Maybe not as much as for these two guys, but crazy stuff does happen. So if you see something crazy happening, you may not think it's fake. You may just think you're very unlucky. Okay, do you guys have other thoughts about these questions that you want to share? Okay, yeah, so that's how we're going to do this class. Watch a movie and then discuss some questions. So next week we have another movie, and it will be a surprise. Um, right. So hmm. Everybody who's not in the group is in group 7, but today group 7 only has 2 people. So I'm going to wait until we have more people in group 7 before discussing your final project. Okay? Okay, great. So that's it. See you next week.